Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Lore Culture with CultureToronto.com and Mosin. We
Hi
are
there.
gonna, we're gonna bring it this time. We're not done talking about Dune. Mosin has some ideas about Dune and Eternals that we're gonna bring, so it's gonna be cool. He's gonna drive this, and I apologize for my place right now. We're in the middle of shipping out everyone's merch and stuff, and my whole living room is full of packages just like that.
It's the life of an entrepreneur. There's no separation of work and life. Like your living room's your warehouse. It happens.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Okay, so we talked at length about Dune on
We did.
our first episode, and one of the things that kept coming up, and one of the questions that we kept coming to was an idea of faith and this idea of a false messiah and whether a religion is true or not, and how much that weighs. Now, Frank Herbert and the story of Dune. Uh, it concerns itself with a more political side of things, but you do definitely see aspects of faith and how important belief is to cultures, peoples, and systems. Now, Eternals, the newest offering at this time of recording from Marvel, is in theaters to mixed audience and critic response. We'll put it that way. Personally, I find it a really enjoyable film. I think it would have been better as two separate movies, but I'm not here to give a review. I'm here to talk about faith.
Wait,
And
wait. Can we just say that the cast is like really good in that
yes,
the cast,
like
okay?
everyone is just perfectly cast in this movie. It just feels like we're in part two and part one of a trilogy at the same time. And I think that this could have either been better as like one of the Disney Plus series and just given more space to breathe and develop these characters, and like just even them out with the plot a little bit, or you do it as two separate movies. But I don't really know how you would divide it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't get paid hundreds of millions of dollars to do this stuff. So,
Not yet.
uh,
All right. And another thing is that you know, Dune borrows so much from religion, and if you, I'm a scripture head. I love scripture, so every prophet actually has instructions about how you could tell like a false prophet and how you
mhm,
could tell the false messiah as well. And there's so many tests. Like for example, if he makes prophecies and they don't come true, he's not the real deal. How he speaks, if he lies, all that, all these kinds of things, right? So it's
yeah.
kind of, I love that Dune plays on this stuff, really. So sorry, continue.
Oh no, no, that's okay. Eternals takes things from kind of a step back, whereas Dune is. So first of all, spoilers for both Eternals and Dune, um, but and just related to the books. Sorry, just related to the movies themselves. I'm not going to again get into the spoilery stuff for what's coming for the Dune series. Uh, but what Eternals primarily concerns itself with isn't so much the prophethood of an individual or anything related to that. It's more about the generalized faith and what God is to this group of people. So, so to give people a quick idea, the Eternals are created by a race of beings called the Celestials, and the Celestials have been around since the very beginning of the universe. They are the ones that forge planets, breathe life into them, and everything. They spread and cultivate life throughout the cosmos.
Okay.
Um, and you have this group called the Deviants, who are these monstrous creatures that are just trying to destroy and consume and essentially make the universe a monoculture that if it's living it can be consumed and like we can propagate and everything, and then there's only deviance, which makes for a very boring cosmos. So the Eternals are created by the Celestials to basically act as guardians against the deviants for various populations. Um, and as far as the Eternals know, uh, the Celestials put them on the planet Earth several thousand years ago, told them don't interfere with humanity, let humanity develop as they're going to. This is part of like the grand experiment of life. Life has to be left alone to flourish and thrive or fail on its own merits. But what you have to do is keep the deviants away from them.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
which okay, that's their role. Um, what's really interesting about them is that they are incapable of growth. The Eternals are, because they are created beings, they are built to this sort of perfect role within the grand mechanism of this design. How do I put this? Basically, when you're first introduced to a lot of these characters, Cersei is this character that is all about nurturing and growth. And so you see that in her characteristics and how she talks to people. She is, in some ways, a motherly figure, in that the way that she tries to cultivate and encourage the people around her. But then when you meet Icarus, if you've seen the trailers, the guy with the laser beam eyes,
Okay,
um,
cool.
what he is a soldier. He's among their strongest fighters and everything, and he is the most devoted to their mission to protecting humanity from the deviants. But more
Awesome.
importantly, he's dedicated to the mission as laid down by the Celestials, that this is what you have to do. Now, what you find out at a portion of the movie is not only are these artificial beings, uh, the Celestials essentially lied to them. Their role isn't so much to protect life on Earth from the deviants and like cultivate Earth and let humanity progress. Um, once humanity hits a certain point, once there's enough intelligent life on the planet, there's actually a celestial embryo within the core of the planet. And once you hit a certain level, that celestial will awaken, destroy the earth, consume it and the life energies and everything around it. And
Okay.
that's how the celestials propagate.
Okay.
So essentially, what the Eternals are white blood cells dedicated to fighting the
And
infestation of the deviants that would disrupt this natural reproductive cycle of the Celestials. So essentially, their faith is a lie, which you see the parallels in Dune, that Paul, as this quote unquote false messiah, is stepping into this religious role, but the religion itself is based on falsehood. It was created by the Bene Gesserit as a political tool of manipulation for the Fremen. Um, and the fact that like Eternals came out and it's in theaters at the same time as Dune, and they're both hitting this questioning of faith and this sort of, once, if you're able to take a step back, what if it's all fake? What if it's all just a level of control? What do you do then? And I think the magical thing about it is the difference in where your point of view is. Within Dune, your point of view is Paul, and the way that he starts to come into himself, the way that he starts to learn about the Fremen, the way that he starts to step into this role as a messiah, and comes into sort of the falsehoods and everything of the religion that way, where you hear the conversations of the Bene Gesserit going, "Oh, there's a path open for you. There's a path to your survival. We laid it out like decades ago and everything, or centuries ago, because that's exactly what they did. They laid out these sorts of prophetic things and these signs of the religious leader of the Kwisatz Haderach, but it's nothing. Like it's there's no actual truth
fascinating.
behind it. Uh,
Fascinating.
and it's a,
So, ask you a
and it's the
question.
same thing with Eternals. Yeah.
So is there a concept of a true God amongst all this falsehood in those stories?
Um, Well, within Eternals, you could beg the question of how do you even define a god at that point? Because you have superpowered beings and everything within the Marvel cinematic universe. And you even have Thor, the actual like god of thunder, Loki, god of mischief, Odin, Allfather. And what they are is essentially extraterrestrials from question from like outer space with technology so advanced and lifetime so prolonged that they seem like gods to us. But then you take that a step up into the Celestials, who just the way that they reproduce is literally life on a planet. It grows alongside the Celestial within the planet, and then it bursts out. But it goes out, and it's not just impregnating more worlds, it is creating life. Like the shape of the cosmos is what it is because of the Celestials. All of the species that exist in the cosmos exist because of the Celestials. So at that point, what are you if not a god? You are the force of living creation in the cosmos. Um, but but the other
That's
question that
deep.
also comes into it is, what is the point of view as a god? And do you even matter to a god? And like, run this fun little experiment. Right now, there is a significant portion of your body weight that isn't you. It's bacteria and various other microorganisms that live within your body, not even just in like your gut bacteria, just throughout your body and on your skin. There's a significant percentage of your body weight that is not actually you. If you're sick, if you have like a cold or something, and you're prescribed a general antibiotic like amoxicillin, that thing, the reason why it upsets your stomach so much is in part because it's wiping out all of that gut flora, all of that natural bacteria that's used in digestion and part of that ecosystem within your stomach and intestinal tract and everything. That takes a very severe blow from any sort of general anesthetic. To the gut bacteria, you're a celestial. You are the entire world for all of these microorganisms within you.
We're
But do you
talking
pay?
billions, right? We're not talking like 10, 20.
No,
We're
we are
talking
talking in millions and the
billions.
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 Uh,
Okay.
like, you are the whole world. You are for this ecosystem. And the moment you take something to preserve
Damn.
your own life, which preserves this ecosystem, it allows it to continue, but it damages it. In what way are you meaningfully different from the celestial? Because the celestials are doing what they need to do to propagate. Uh,
I
yeah, go
wonder
ahead.
if
Go ahead.
that just makes me think of heaven and hell, right?
Hmm.
Um, but what if that is like God's version of amoxicillin?
Yeah, it could be. The thing is, we don't know,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it a matter of faith. That you take it as a matter of faith that what you believe is correct, but you never truly know. You never truly know, like in this life.
By the way, you got
You
15
hope.
minutes.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're trying to keep this a little bit tighter compared to the last one, because the last one we got excited for. um, but yeah, what I was saying was that these sort of greater truths of reality, of the metaphysical world around you, because of our limits, we don't have actual access to, we don't understand it to a particular degree. When you're watching Eternals, because you're outside of that story and you're kind of seeing it from above, you're watching these characters as they find out about this. And then when you go back and if you rewatch it, you get little hints of things going, okay, like these sort that odd sort of feeling that I had about this mission and things not lining up, suddenly it makes sense. Within Dune, you always have that. Like in terms, because the Fremen religion and everything, you see it because of your point of view in the story. You see it as an outside culture and something that can be manipulated. Uh, because that's how it's always been presented. The Fremen have this belief system, and then Paul starts taking advantage of that belief system.
But
Um,
he's getting real visions though. That's what I don't get. He's not
but
making that up.
he he's seeing glimpses of the future, but that's a part of his training and his biology. Like, did you ever see the show Invader Zim?
It sounds super familiar, but I don't think so. Is it a cartoon?
Yeah, it was a cartoon.
Okay.
It was this quasi dark humor, like kind of for like a preteen to teen audience show about like this alien invader who's brutally inept, but everybody around him is also an idiot. So it works out sort of. Um, Zim's society is led by the tallest among them. Like their leadership structure is literally tallest to shortest. It has nothing to do on ability, leadership skills, or anything like that.
Hmm.
Um, you're the leader because you're the tallest. That's the same thing for Paul. His visions are real, but they are something that are just innately a part of him. It's just a biological advantage that he has that he leverages. Like you and I can grow some wonderful beards, but that doesn't mean that, like, what if we come across a culture where, beard thickness is the basis for authority?
Yeah, shout out to my Asian friends.
But it's a very it's a it in concept it's functionally the same thing, that we would be outsiders coming into there, and just as a quirk of our biology we could take over rulership. it,
Yeah,
uh,
okay, I get it. So it's kind of he has a gift. He has a sixth sense that is not necessarily from a higher power. It's just part of his
it,
ability to make connections and see.
yeah, essentially. um, and it's a very similar thing with the Eternals. The thing that you do see with the Eternals that you haven't seen in Dune, is that what happens when the falsehood is revealed.
Mm.
Because right now where we are in Dune is Paul taking on the trappings of this leader. Um, Within Eternals, you get a more sort of beginning to end arc and story where the Eternals find out that, oh, everything that we believe, this mission that we've been on for thousands of years, has been a lie, like, or it's been for a goal that we didn't understand. That we are not the only Eternals, and that we are not living beings in the same way as everything else. We're created to serve a particular function as part of a reproductive cycle. Um, so, and the way that that breaks down and the rift that it causes within them, where some of the Eternals have grown to enjoy their time on Earth, respect humanity and everything. And you see the gambit of it, that the ones that decide, no, we need to rebel against our creators, the ones that go, no, our creators are a more big picture view of the cosmos and everything. You can't sacrifice everything for just one world. And you even have the in between going, this is too big for me. I don't get to make a decision on this. Uh, let's see how it plays out. I'm not taking a side on this. Um, the role that faith plays within Eternals is very critically important, because you have this one group of people who, for thousands of years, are essentially trapped. Like, imagine doing your 9 to 5 job every day for more than 100 years, and that alone is just like mentally exhausting. Now you do it for 5,000 years, there has to be an aspect of faith to that. You got to
Mm-hmm.
believe that you're doing something right or something bigger than yourself.
Mm.
They just don't like what the bigger than themselves is, some of them.
That's an interesting point. I think we all, making money is a reality that we all have to deal with, whether we like it or not. If it were up to me, I would just like travel the world, do good deeds, you know. That's all I would do all day, every day. Different location every week, or even every day. I don't know.
Mhm.
Japan, Curacao, Morocco, Egypt. This shirt was from Curacao. Um,
Oh, nice.
yeah, I just felt like lightening up. It's winter, so But why do we do these things? I mean, at some point, you gotta realize that your time is way more valuable than anything that anybody could pay you. Every
True.
every moment, Mosin, is so precious of a human life. Every
Mhm.
moment is like
Yeah.
so precious that a company could hire someone for minimum wage is a travesty in my eyes.
Which is totally fair, and that's where, like, we don't realize the various things that we take faith in. We take faith in the, like, economic and political systems that we live under unless you're actively rebelling against them. That, you know what, you're making minimum wage, but it's getting you the experience that you need and the work experience and the connections that you need to maybe
The
make something
jokes.
better. Which there are massive labor movements that have started up in both the United States and Canada on the other side of the
This pandemic, I mean, you've been
yeah.
hearing about the mass what do they call it? The mass resignment or the mass
Yeah, like this quote unquote labor shortage. There isn't a labor shortage. Like, the labor's all there, and the companies that have started paying people more are seeing people return to the workforce. But at the same time, you have workers that are not willing to put up with harassment and mistreatment by customers or management. And the thing is, what we forget is, and again, this is a matter of taking things on faith and not being aware of the whole picture. We've had labor movements before, like unions, us having a weekend, ideas of worker rights and compensation, even the idea of a minimum wage. All of it came from people protesting the conditions that they were working under. Like, every single labor law that you see has a history behind it. Like, to you and me, it seems ridiculous that you need a law to say, hey, you can't store radioactive materials uh, in the same place that worker housing is. But the reason that law exists is because rather than build a separate dump warehouse, there were mining companies that would literally put toxic chemical and radioactive materials in the same unit that they were housing their workers in on sites, and people died slow, painful deaths because of it. There were court cases that lasted for almost a decade to get these laws made to protect people. We just don't talk about it. But this is that sort of broader view of the system that you live under and what your faith actually means. What are you actually agreeing to? That's something that Dune grapples with a little bit, but Eternals grapples with more, and it's easily applicable. That the Eternals belong to, they are a critical part of a system of reproduction for these beings that are so far beyond them that they literally created them.
hmm.
But because they don't know what they're actually a part of, when they get that whole view, it changes how they see themselves and the world around them and what they want of themselves. And that's what we saw with the pandemic. All of these jobs that were minimum wage and, oh, they don't deserve a raise and stuff because they're doing a job that anyone could do. Well, first of all, not everyone has the patience to work in customer service, number one. And number two, those jobs were all the ones that turns out were necessary. when the lockdowns happened and everything, the banking sector and everything, how many people were leaning heavily on banking sector, like having remote access and internet access to their bank accounts.
Hmm.
What it really came down to was, hey, we can't buy anything. We can't get food because all of the minimum wage workers and stuff, they're also on lockdown. All of that like ground level work is what's necessary.
Can I tell you the story about Pizza Hut?
Oh yeah, hit me.
Okay, so there was an incident where these higher up executives underestimate that the effect that these low level workers can have on the company, right? Like
Mhm,
these guys make like hundreds of thousands a year. These guys make like 20, 30K a year,
mhm.
right? And it's not fair. But Pizza Hut, there was an incident where these guys were caught on camera doing really gross stuff to pizza. That footage gets out. All of a sudden, their business takes a hit, right?
Yeah.
And duh, right? If you mistreat these guys, they're the ones who are delivering and making the pizza, right? No one is holding a gun to their heads. They're doing it out of their own will. So if you don't treat them well, your pizza is gonna be shit, and it's gonna affect the business big time. That low level employee had much more effect on the business than like a higher up person.
Yeah, because they're the ones that are actually interacting with the product and the customer base. Uh, a- and that's exactly it, like bringing it back to what we're discussing. It's the same thing with the Eternals, like the Celestials and
You got three
everything.
minutes, by the way.
Oh yeah, the Celestials are essentially that sort of upper management going, okay, this is what we need you to do. Don't worry about the why and everything. And the Celestials actually being down there amongst humanity, they are a tool. The Eternals are tools to just protect this embryonic celestial as part of this reproductive cycle. But the moment that they realize that because they've been impacted by humanity and the thousands of years that they've been loyal to this thing, when they find out that it's all a sham, like let's continue with Pizza Hut. Let's say you work with Pizza Hut for 15 years. You give this company 15 years because of your own situation and you're getting your like yearly raise and stuff, and maybe like they even make you eventually like an assistant manager at a location after 15 years. And they keep and like every yearly conference meeting and stuff, or like every like where we are as a company newsletter that goes out. I don't know how Pizza Hut is or Pizza set up. Uh, they keep saying, "Oh, the business is growing. We're doing great. We delivered on this. We delivered on this. We delivered on this. You guys are doing fantastic. All of this comes apart without you. We're not going to give you a raise, but we appreciate you." And then right at like 2 weeks after that, you start seeing reports going, "Oh yeah, like the CEO has filed for Chapter 9 bankruptcy. Everyone's being laid off. No one gets retirement. No one gets like health insurance anymore. Like all of this, they just drop it and drop all of you. Where would you be? Well, like, what would your idea about that place be? And it's the same thing in Eternals, that for thousands of years they committed to this role, and then they find out, oh, this is just, we're just a tool. We don't actually, in the real world, we got a labor movement. In Eternals, they got a big CGI civil war, which was cool. It's a
I gotta
fun
watch it
movie.
now. I guess it's cooler than I thought. I gotta
Yeah,
watch it.
it is a fun movie.
Um,
But yeah, it was just interesting seeing that interplay of faith in both Dune and Eternals at the same time in theaters. This
all
golden
right,
age of sci-fi.
let me wrap it up. Okay, so I
Yeah,
got two stories. So one was so you know that I was on my way to being a doctor, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I was the TA for gross anatomy, And so all these chiro and physio students were like cutting up bodies under my supervision, right?
Hmm.
And one day it hit me that I don't want my family to be spending all this money. So I decided to go home.
Okay.
So I went from, I gotta beep that out. I went from doctor
Hmm.
to um, to Best Buy, right? And
Yeah.
then, when I was working there, I worked there for about 6, 7 months, I think, maybe longer. And they hired me during Christmas. It was crazy. And then
Yeah.
I passed because I was awesome. And then I decided after speaking to the guy who was the Apple rep, right? He told me, he was like, so when they hired me, the guy looked at my resume. He's like, okay, specialist in neuroscience, doctoral studies, TA. We're going to start you off real good. Instead of 10.25 an hour, we're going to give you 10.75 an hour.
Yeah. Ooh.
Ooh, right? And then I was talking to this guy. I was like, you know what? I'm humble. Maybe I'll just
Hmm.
become a manager and like work up, like whatever. And then the Apple guy told me, hey, those managers only make like $1 more.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this isn't gonna work. I have to find something different. Fast forward to the current company I'm at. It's a giant tech company. You probably heard of it. Um, you definitely heard of it.
No,
And
it's okay. We don't get too deep into what can be searched about us.
exactly, exactly. So, um, when we hit the pandemic, the CEO had concerns, right? He's like, okay,
Yeah.
there's gonna be less money. What do we do? Do we lay off a shitload of people? He was so brave, and he decided everyone gets a pay cut.
Hmm.
You know, Barely anybody lost a job.
Yeah.
And then about 2, 3 months later, he was like, okay, I guess we didn't need the pay cut. Here's all the money back.
Yeah.
And then,
Fantastic.
right? I mean, it just tells your people that you are cared for.
Yeah. And
It's
yeah.
just why don't people run business like this? It's crazy. Anyways, so that's
Yeah.
those are my two stories. Uh, this is top. Oh shit, that doesn't show up. The Great Resignation: How Employers Drove Workers to Quit.
Yeah.
Since the pandemic, employees are leaving the workforce or switching jobs in droves. For many, employers have played a big part in why they're walking away.
Yeah.
I guarantee if you don't like what you're doing, guys, quit, find something better. Don't settle for less. We have a we have a fraternity, I guess, called the White Rabbits. Our top white rabbit makes 400,000 a year. Several of us make over 100,000 a year, and there's no fee to join. Just let us know that you want entry, and you'll be granted access. Um, we got merch. We got cool shit going on. We got podcast galore. We have people like Mosin and Pierre and Alan and all kinds of people you need to listen to on culturetoronto.com. There's also a plethora of books that we have curated that you should purchase. If you're interested in any topic, like just buy books, learn. It's worth every penny. And until next time, we'll see ya. Peace. Go to culturetoronto.com. Thanks for watching.
On a squirrel, yeah. You watch a movie, you think it's like that, yeah. You watch a TV show, you think it's like that, yeah. You read a book and you think it's like that, but it hasn't been like that for very long. Because society hasn't developed the technology to place their stories and constructs in the philosophical medium that's entertaining for us to understand. And plus, there's so many of us here on this planet, we need a system to organize ourselves in a way that makes us feel like we come